Okay, Team Avalor, are you listening up?
We need you to get your water bottle ready. Always have to stay hydrated.
Make sure you have had a healthy snack. Keep your tummy full.
Turn up that volume because this episode is a mama amazing.
And get your feels ready.
Welcome to the Magic Within.
Hello, Avalor. Welcome back to another episode of The Magic Within, your podcast resource for all things Elena of Avalor. We're coming to you tonight live from our Elena of Avalor Discord server. Are you ready for the mother of all episodes? The woman who puts the mum in our mummy, the ginger in our houses, and the Feliz in our Noche Buena Navidad traditions. Our favourite wizard mother and son duo, ready to cast a spell into our hearts. This episode was so emotional on so many different levels, pulling at our heartstrings, making us laugh, making us cry, and most of all, making us see how much love there is between such special and important members of the cast. We are all so excited to bring this podcast to you tonight. So, without further ado, joining me tonight in our discussions are our podcast princesses. Hi everyone, it's Chrissy from New Zealand.
Hi, it's Jenny from California.
Hi, it's Amelia from Oregon.
Hello, it's Georgia from Greece.
And I'm Becky, coming to you from Germany.
Woohoo! Okay, guys, we're going to do something a little different tonight. So when you hear this sound, our podcast princess Jenny is going to pop in and explain what that specific word or phrase means. As we know, Elena of Avalor is hugely inspired by the Latina culture, and we here at Podcast Princess HQ are always, and I mean always, asking Jenny what certain things mean. Okay, with that said, let's get started.
All right, girls. I don't know about you guys, but come on, moving on up. What did y'all think of this episode in a nutshell?
My heart.
Too good to be true.
Amazing,
So good.
right?
Amazing. A
Yeah.
mama amazing.
A mama amazing, yes. So everything from, honestly, the whole 20 minutes, it was just packed full of feels and laughs and things to make you go, aw. Starting
Things
with...
to make it go, oh.
Exactly. Starting with just the opening scene where we see Elena playing pranks on Mateo, which can I just say that's been a headcanon of mine for a long time. So yay for headcanon confirmed.
Yay.
Did anyone else notice what Mateo was studying? Oh, I did. It was the Orizaba and the Jewel of Night.
Oh yeah.
Could this be perhaps foreshadowing an upcoming obstacle for Team Avalor? Maybe I'm thinking potentially using that jewel in the sunstone so Orizaba can have her eternal night again.
Are we having a big villain team up like Orizaba and Shuriken inside the jewel and the GLaDOS? It's gonna be insane.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
It'll be like
Orizariki. Shurata.
Or Zabariki.
or Zabariki. Oh my god.
Sorry, I couldn't help it.
Oh no.
There we go.
I like it.
Yeah, to add on to the earlier thing about the pranks, I feel like this is just so in character for both Elena and Mateo because they always have some sort of playful banter going on between them. Like in the short Nothing But Blaze, you can really see their competitive side. And also they always find way to slip puns into their conversations to each other. Like the one that really sticks out to me is in Song of the Sirenas when Mateo is helping her with the scepter training again and she makes herself vanish except for her head. He's like, you're headed in the right direction. And
I love that.
that one just cracks me up every time. And so it seems really natural that they're now playing pranks on each other. It just seems like the thing you would do with your best friend, you know?
Mm-hmm. And where I come from, you're part of the family when you start pranking your friends.
Oh.
I have weird friends, what can I say?
So speaking of family and friends, we have Esteban catching Elena. And he at first seems like he's mad at her for being immature and she gets a bit defensive. But the joke is that it turns out he's just as mischievous and he enjoys that. So he's like, do the chair next. It was really funny. It's really priceless. You have the Flores cousins bonding and also pranking on Mateo with it's really nice. It makes you wonder if that's something they would do together when they were younger.
Yeah. I think, like
Walking out cackling.
he's such a goofball. But I think it also shows how like comfortable Esteban is with Mateo too. Like, he's not putting on
Persona.
a face, a persona,
Yeah.
a mask like he would like with like the other nobility or something. It's just he's comfortable with him. That's kind of cool.
Part of the family, basically. Everybody likes him.
Exactly.
He was invited to the royal dinner in My Fair Naomi.
This is true.
Yeah, man, he saved the royal family. It only makes sense that Esteban pretty much liked him from the very first moment, but he's kind of a nerd, and he's going to poke fun at him.
So usually Mateo's up for most of Elena's antics. I mean, we see him pretty, playful back in previous episodes and skits and stuff. So the fact that he doesn't this time really is setting it up for the possibility that he has had quite a few late nights recently.
I thought he looked really tired. And also, as a side note, and because I think this might be important, we've seen it several times, is the fact that Elena's scepter is still malfunctioning. We've seen it a few times. Gosh, almost every
Recently.
episode. Yeah, almost every episode where her scepter comes out, she does the slamming it against her hand like a flashlight thing. But the fact that we've seen it repeated so many times, I think that's clear foreshadowing that this is going to be important very soon. It's going to come up in the story. So anyway, cool.
Yeah, so now we hear the real dilemma of the episode. Well, what starts the real dilemma. Mateo lives really, really, really far away. And because of this, he hasn't been able to really let himself go, I guess, when studying magic and wizardry, at the palace. And of course, Elena notices. You can see the concern that she has for the fact that he's probably staying late again. And it's evident in her posture and her face. She's bridging something that is, in my opinion, a really sore subject for him, which is, staying late all the time.
Yeah, he seemed really sensitive to it and very quickly frustrated. Like as soon as he had the opportunity to unload about it, he was like, "Oh my gosh, I wish." So I thought that was really telling.
Yeah, absolutely. Because he really freaked out when he realized that he's late for dinner with his mom. He made a promise to her, and he must be breaking it all the time, getting carried away with his work, apparently. And he expresses his frustration about living so far away. And I think that pretty much No Place Like Home prepared us for this episode, with Mateo worrying about leaving his mother alone and her spending Navidad without her only son. It only makes sense that he would feel bad breaking promises to her.
Yeah, I think I really love how they've, even though these episodes, like the story itself is just kind of like, there's a Christmas episode and then there's this moving out episode, and they're two totally different topics, but they've like drawn these threads in between, these connective threads that just really help the overall story keep flowing, even though there's nothing huge going on overarching right now.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really well done. I just, just kind of as a silly thought, like I was like, wow, his as we mentioned, his home is kind of far away. The Moon Cliffs, isn't that like where the Jacquins live?
Yeah, I
That's
think
like
so.
the Jacquin nest.
Where Lona's birthday was.
Yeah,
That's where all the parties happen.
it's at least where the Jacquin raves are.
Party.
Yeah. Definitely.
I can't help but wonder if that's the sole reason he finally decided he needed to learn how to ride a horse, because walking just took too long.
Yeah, I feel him there.
So, obviously, Elena has the best solution for him. One that pleases all of us, in fact, I have to say. And that is for Mateo to move into his very own royal wizard quarters.
And they certainly are quite the quarters,
Oh my
because his room is amazing. Like, seriously, I'm really curious who designed it, if it was Alcazar himself or if it was just some other random palace member, like way before the time or something, because it's seriously amazing, because it has a large fish bowl with live fish. It has a really long couch that could probably hold like 20 people. And it also has like, I think a mini observatory. It was like up off to the side with like a big
Yeah.
telescope, if I remember right.
That telescope
And then
was so
there's
cool.
hundreds of, I know, I want one. And then there's also hundreds of books and just a lot of space that's big enough to practice and do all sorts of magic stuff. And it was basically just Mateo's dream come true. And so it was the perfect solution for him.
It was, and the color scheme was beautiful.
Yeah.
Just so like
So
peaceful
many
and
colors.
calm.
And that totally makes sense because Mateo needs this room to relax after a long day in his royal wizard chamber. So Elena really accounted for his needs there.
She's
Exactly.
always thinking of him.
Mhm.
Yes, that's very perfect. Okay, but that room did not get that spiffy overnight. Or maybe it did. The point is that Elena knew that she intended to ask him to move in at some point soon. So she had Mateo's awesome room prepared, complete with candles, flowers, and fish shifters.
Yeah, I don't think those fish shifters have been sitting there for 40 years.
Someone's had to feed him.
Well, it
Elena's
makes
been
sense
doing
that
it right
he
next to her
would
room.
not have. What's the fish shifters? Is that like a small reference to the fact that Mateo is really fascinated by shape shifting? In Secret of Avalor, he's like, "Oh, I wish I could shape shift like Sophia, who shape shifted into a mermaid." Then you got the episode shape shifters, and now you got fish shifters into his room. Yay!
That's true.
Yeah.
You know, Elena's very observant, I have to say, because, to kind of mention like what Amelia said about the little observatory over in the corner. Oh my gosh. I just all of a sudden got this little headcanon that maybe like after Scepter of Light, like I guess Isabel got him really into like astronomy and all that other stuff. And that Elena noticed that, and that's why he has it in his room.
I love
love
that.
that.
That's so good.
So of course Mateo's like so excited. Like he's just like, all excited.
So cute.
Sorry, that was too much. Yes, it was so cute though. Like he got all excited, like, oh my gosh, my own place in the palace, and then he sees all this stuff in there, and he like just grabs her hand and is just like, oh my god, you could feel for this boy. He needs some freedom by that reaction.
Right. Like, and he didn't even imagine that it was a possibility until that moment.
No. And of course that's short-lived because then, reality rears its ugly head and, slams right on his shoulders here.
And I thought it was really interesting that like his reasoning for moving out, because leading up to this, like between his reaction, just the bit that we saw of his connection with his mother in previous episodes, you couldn't quite tell if we know he's a mama's boy, but is it because just because they have a great relationship, because he needs her? But he explained that it wasn't necessarily because he was super attached, it's because his mother was super attached, and so he was worried about her needs. And I just thought that was, aw, what a good son. So I just thought that was really sweet, and just again really telling of his selfless nature. 'Cause that's something that we've seen over and over again, is that generally speaking, obviously he has his moments of weakness like we all do, he's only human, but generally speaking, Mateo is a pretty selfless guy. He's always thinking of others. And in this case, even though like he's being handed something amazing, the opportunity to move into his own place at the palace, I mean, who gets to say that? He's concerned for his mother's like emotional well-being. But then, Elena, in typical Elena fashion, gives him, that mini pep talk, and asks the questions that need to be asked. Like, okay, great. Like, that's great that you're worried about your mother, but what about you? Are you ready? And, you could see something just click in his mind. He was ready. He knew he was ready. But I just think it's so cool that, Mateo agrees with her, and he realizes that, she's right. He is ready to become his own person, to stand on his own 2 feet. And he realizes that he has the confidence within him to talk to his mother and make that change. So yay.
And then we see Mateo going home, and this sort of sets the scene for Rafa's behavior for the rest of the episode. She's looking out the window, eagerly awaiting Mateo to return, while she is stirring Mateo's favorite soup on the stove. Jenny Godmother, what is Rafa cooking?
Rafa is actually cooking sopa de fideo con pollo, which is a fancy way. No, not fancy. It's Spanish. But it's like chicken noodle soup. It's like fideo. Fideo's this little specific type of noodle, that makes sense. And it's like little skinny noodles, and make it with pollo, and it's like chicken soup, Mexican chicken soup.
Yeah. We need an Elena of Avalor cookbook. I'm just saying.
Yes,
tamales, kelp tacos,
kelp tacos,
pinatas,
and bananas.
I could do most of those except the kelp tacos because don't take the carne out of my tacos.
Maybe Sardina's listening.
Sorry, Serena's out there.
So we see her doing, normal motherly things. Like she's so excited to see him. She, tells him how worried she was getting. And, all right, sit down, sit down. No, wait, give me that robe. I'm going to wash it for you. So, the obedient son that he is.
Oh my God. So speaking of taking off his robe, I totally remember when listening to the episode, Becky gasped at that part. I don't know what we were expecting to be under that robe, but
I think I even said oh my God, what is he wearing under there?
Well, as much as I want to say we totally didn't know that he had that under there. I think I remember Craig Gerber saying something that he has his normal clothes underneath there on Twitter once. But, when you're in the heat of the moment, you don't remember these things. So yeah, yes, now we know.
Mystery solved.
Another mystery solved by the podcast princesses.
That's what we're here for. You're welcome.
Way to go, guys.
So, of course, true to every nurturing mother's habit, she doesn't let Mateo get a word in. Does she ever listen to what he says? I don't doubt that she does, but does it change anything? I think we can all agree that no, it doesn't change anything anyways.
Things that make you go, what? Them bookmarks.
Oh my God. I love that.
Organising his spells, but she's so crafty, just like me. I just love the thought of the colours behind these gorgeous bookmarks, and I love the way Ruffa says about the red bookmark with how she is going for the dangerous spells that he shouldn't be casting, and he's like, yeah, and she's like, I'll give them to you even though I know you're casting them, mister.
A mother
I know.
knows.
That was kind of like an unspoken little commentary, I'm going to give it to you because I know.
But I
You're looking back at
know.
those.
But I'm watching you.
All mothers know everything.
And then the here comes the mummy, I want to have my own space, move to the palace talk. And Ruffa says she knew about this day was coming. It makes me think, did Elena or the palace staff talk to her a while back about the vacant wizard quarters? Or was she familiar with it, her puppy Alexazar?
I would say she was familiar because of her father, but either one is definitely plausible.
Probably.
Oh, and just that sweet comments he makes when he's squeezing Mateo's cheeks. You have been working so hard, mijito.
So, fun fact, mijito means, what does mijito mean? It's there's a literal translation for this, I promise you. It's more like my little son, oh, my little son, because the little ito part at the end, it's not just mijo, my son, it's mijito, my little one.
Is it like Mahita?
Yeah, it's just, depending on if you use it masculine and versus feminine, it's your daughter or your son,
And so Rafa seems to be so proud and understands how hard Mateo has been working. I mean, she has been supporting him from the very start, and she's the one that knew that he is studying magic secretly, and how important being the royal wizard is to him and the kingdom.
Yeah, and then episode then goes to the very next day, which is the day Mateo is ready to move out. And so you see Elena stopping by the royal carriage just to ask how things went and to personally escort Mateo back into the palace. And it seems like the hospitable thing to do, but she seems almost just excited as he is, which would make sense, seeing as one of your best friends is moving into the palace with you. So who wouldn't be excited, right?
Right, totally.
That's right.
And surprise, La Suegra is moving in too. Sorry, that's a joke.
So what does La Suegra mean?
It actually means mother-in-law, but... But, come on. Given the situation, it's pretty funny.
It is.
Yeah, that's the
True.
the face
Irony.
on Mateo and Elena, it's yeah, your mother-in-law's moving in.
They're like, what?
I feel ya.
What just happened?
Okay, not the list like that, but,
know
Mateo's mama's moving in.
And if we couldn't tell before, we can clearly see now that Rafa has a very strong personality and that she's a bit opinionated and bossy at times, as you can see throughout the previous episodes and all that we've seen so far in this episode, when she's telling Mateo what to do and how to do it and kind of talking over him before he finishes sentences. But she doesn't really listen to him all the times, but you can see that she still cares fiercely and she's still a nurturing mother, and that she will charge down any foe like a mother bear. And all of the nurturing and kind of overbearing helicopter parenting, it's all done out of love, and you can clearly see how much she loves him, despite how high-strung she may be at times. And something like we were kind of thinking like what made her like this, and we thought maybe it could be the instilled fear of Shariki and Shariki's hatred towards magic, or maybe it was the loss of her father and seeing how magic endangered her family from the beginning, and that was the reason her father had to leave, or maybe it's just the
Ooh.
loss of her husband that we still know nothing about, because I know Mateo later says in the episode that she raised him all on her own. So I feel Rafa just doesn't want to let go of another person in her life yet, even if he's only moving across the
Aw.
city.
Oh my gosh, Amelia, right? Like you could see that she's super attached and that she's very hesitant to, let go even an inch. And, there has to be a deeper reason than just a mother's love. It's really sweet, a little disturbing, but I'm sure it's for comedic effect. I don't know about you guys, but I got a good laugh at her bringing all of Mateo's baby things to the palace. His
Yes.
tambourine rattle and, his baby shoes and, of course, the baby picture.
Same pattern on as Alakazar and Mateo's robe. They were so cute.
Yes, that was
Aw.
super cute. But yeah, Elena is very interested in these things. It was cute how she gushed over them.
That's my favorite part.
Was it really, Jenny? Tell us how you really feel.
Oh, girl, you know how I really. It's written out right there for you. Okay, so can I just say, Elena totally wants like 10 babies just like him. I'm kidding, you guys. Disclaimer. Listen, when my mother-in-law did that to my husband, who, like, can I just add on here, like, for the 10 billionth time that his name happens to be Mateo, just saying, she did the same thing to him, and I felt the same way. Let me tell you, same, Elena, same.
So you
okay?
related to her a little too well, is what you're saying.
I did, actually. So, Operation Kicking Mom Out Faster just went underway here. I'm just kidding. I'm not kidding.
So then you can see Elena getting all excited over Mateo's baby stuff because it's honestly so cute, and I would too. But also this kind of goes to show again that she just loves teasing him and just like kind of like not really making him the brunt of her jokes, but just joking with him and just getting a kick out of his expressions and his reactions to everything, which he is clearly not so amused at this, but it's still really funny to her.
Yeah, he is so not amused, and he tries to like interrupt or be like, why did you bring that? They clearly don't fit me. Oh my gosh. And she just refuses to listen to anything that he's trying to say.
I have a real tambourine now.
Right, exactly. These shoes don't fit me anymore. Why did you bring them? But then Armando comes in, with the trunks, and him and Rafa both have opposite instructions for him. Put it over there. Put it back in the carriage. And she doesn't even notice this. But then he says, that Olivia's waiting for her lesson, and Mateo's like, wait, I have to tell you something. And Rafa just does not listen, refuses to let him get an word in edgewise, which is exactly what we saw back back in their house when he was trying to tell her about his day. Like, he never got to say a complete sentence to her.
And then she is like, listen to your mama. And she just gives him the mom voice, and look, he just can't help but obey. It's kind of a kid thing. I feel like you never grow out of it. Like, yeah, never.
I think so too. I think
Great.
I would have listened to her too. She's fierce.
Exactly.
But then we go to the workshop and we see Olivia. I love Olivia, and I was so excited to see her back. That was like such a nice surprise.
Me too. It was so great.
Yeah. And even though she didn't have much of a part in this episode, you could still see just in the moment that she had that she'd improved in skills by a lot. I mean, she's, Mateo's allowing her to use a tamburita, right?
Which is so cute, by the way.
Yes. And she does it so well. She's such a good little student. And we see that she's still adorably tenacious. She's like, where's that evil monster? And that little look on her face she gets, it's precious.
I also love how Mateo is continuing the whole teacher thing. He's such a good guy. I love him.
Because it's been a while now since
He's
he's been
growing.
training.
Oh my gosh, Olivia is so cute. Just wanting to take on all those monsters already. But of course, Mateo, the voice of reason, I love how like interactive he is with her in this episode. Like it's such a big difference from like, Wizard in Training, where he was kind of like leaving her to her own devices. But he kind of gets like this little smirk and he's like, yeah, no, you're not ready for that yet. Like, we all know what
Take
happens
that,
when you
little
get involved
Naz.
with that.
And then Rafa makes her grand entrance and steps into the workshop and completely interrupts Mateo's session, and he is just completely shocked. He's like, "What are you doing?" And it's not good.
No, she's just like, I just want to see my little wizard at work. And she like ties his hoodie strings and fusses with his hair.
And Olivia says, that's what my mom says to me. Mateo did not look impressed.
No.
Well, yeah, Olivia's a child, and he's like, a grown man.
The teacher.
Like, thanks, Mom, for making me feel like the 8-year-old, 9-year-old.
Yep.
And then it probably doesn't help either that Rafa keeps trying to feed them snacks, but Mateo's just like, "No, I'm not hungry." And then she just completely undermines his wishes and just keep like forcing him to eat.
Oh my gosh, that's my mom.
Isn't it though?
And I love that comment about Mateo getting cranky when he's hungry. So the way Olivia says, she's right. You're cranky when you get hungry. Olivia, it's called hangry, and it gets worse as you get older.
Somebody give that boy a Snickers.
Elena comes in to save Mateo from Rafa's antics. The look of help on Mateo's face says it all. With Elena's quick thinking as usual, she whisks Senor de Alva. Jenny Godmother, what does Senora de Alva mean?
So, Senora actually is like a way of saying like Mrs. Like how we say Miss and Mrs. in English. Like Mrs. is like, that's the translation of that. So, highest esteemed Elva. No.
She whisks Senora de Alva away so Mateo can finish his lesson in peace with Olivia.
So, unlike a good neighbor, Rafa makes many, many completely uncalled for changes in the palace. She harasses the poor cook about the complexities of Mateo's diet. I mean, I have to wonder if it's all true. I mean, I doubt the shellfish one wasn't true. I mean, my daughter has one of those allergies, and no joke. That's scary.
Yeah.
But then, like some of the things like the, Mateo not liking chocolate and all this other stuff.
And wanting carob.
No wonder the poor boy. Yeah, no wonder the poor boy is so
carob?
skinny. Crunchy families do. That's who does it. But, to be fair, though, I kind of actually like the idea of Mateo not eating chocolate as much as the next person. Because it kind of adds to his, like, quirkiness.
True.
I'm 90% sure 90% of, like, Rafa's demands are more her being overbearing and being a crunchy mama than...
Mushy carrots, really? Ew. Who likes mushy carrots?
My 6-year-old does, actually.
See?
I think she's stuck in 6-year-old Mateo age,
Yes.
So then we have the best rivalry in the show. Like, forget Shariki, forget everything. We got Esteban versus Miss Rafa's land.
Round one, ready, fight.
So, like, I agree with Esteban. Just who designed that plant? It's insane. It has twirls. It has leaves. It has it's really big and it looks stocky.
I was wondering if it was a tomato vine.
Yeah.
Funny thing about the plants is, like, literally the day Baby called me to tell me that she bought a plant for me at the swap meet.
Oh my goodness.
And let me tell you something about Grandma's plants, okay? Let me tell you, they're like viney and long and huge. And so when I saw this, I legit cracked up more than I should have because I was like, oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
They get it. And like,
It's awesome.
Amazing.
I love it.
So yeah, the plant thing with the stubborn is a running gag, and seriously, it's one of the funniest things I have ever seen in the show.
Putting it behind the curtain, I just choked laughing.
I loved it. It was so hilarious. And then, after all that, Mateo goes back to his room only to find that Rafa has completely baby-proofed the whole entire room, making it so that he can't hurt himself. And she's done, like, all these different things. She's, like, built bunk beds. She's made the bookmarks. She's offers to build blast-proof cabinets. And you gotta admit, she's pretty crafty and, like, really innovative. Because I guess that's all that she does in her time at home is just make stuff and do arts and crafts, I guess.
Those chocolate curtains were so cute.
she's like a Pinterest mama.
Yes.
She is. No,
Pinterest
she really
projects.
is.
Mateo confronts his mother. He says, I'm ready to live on his own. And Rafa's like, no, I will never leave. Wait, can they say no? The Ruffinator, I'll be back.
Ah! I was worried
All
for
right.
Mateo.
Oh, yes. All right, cue the music. Never Get Away. Oh my gosh, one of the funniest songs I have ever seen. I think we were expecting a really emotional song for this episode, but the light-hearted comedic lyrics and the way Mateo, Joey Haro, was able to capture the irony of Rafa saying how she was protecting him when really it was just a little too overprotective, and how he was trying to literally get away from her the whole song. It was so funny. And when she wrapped up Mateo like a little baby tamale, we were dying of laughter at that. The animation and capturing the hilarious facials of Mateo were absolutely amazing. Yay, Team EOA!
Did anyone else get like vague, not so evil Mother Gothel vibes from the song?
Yeah.
Like, Mother knows best.
It's the "Man Will Protect You" song, so yeah.
Yeah, like it kind of like it was sweet, but it kind of creeped me out at the same time. I loved it.
Yeah. It's the helicopter mom thing, the effect that they have.
Oh, Rafa has passed helicopter mom. She's a lawnmower mom.
Oh my gosh!
She mows down anything in Mateo's way.
That's a really good analogy.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I don't know. This might be like my classical nerd side coming out, but she also really reminded me of Mrs. Bennet from Pride and Prejudice. Do you guys know?
Oh my god, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ooh!
She's just like so kind of like just I guess overbearing. She wants what's best for her kids, but she doesn't exactly like take in consideration what they want.
Yeah.
And I just
Exactly.
kind of made that comparison. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, it does seem to be a common trope. So she
Yes.
definitely fits that. So it makes sense.
I know. I was just laughing the whole time at poor Mateo. I mean, his mother is having none of that the entire song. I almost feel like she represents us as a fandom. I'm just saying. We're never letting Mateo go away.
I feel a
we're
meme
also
in the
like
making.
fiercely protective.
Seriously, the lines are just so creative in this song. You've got, and I love Mateo's exasperated comments. It's like, oh, I got your helmet. It's like, oh my gosh, I was just playing chess. Baby blanket, Mateo. You got flap your wings for you. It's really good.
Oh,
The
man.
baby Jacqueline floaties, they were so cute though.
They were.
Yes,
But
but I love the little details of this episode, like the objects and the
Mhm.
creativity around them.
They were perfect. And then his response to all of them, like you said, just like A+.
Yes.
So the song ends, and you could see Mateo is just so like exasperated. He's like, "Oh, there's no getting through to her." And then she's just like, "I love our little talks. Ah, good job." Even though she did the talking. And she does exactly what he told her not to do at the beginning before the song started. She puts the portrait up with the potions, and shock of all shockers, the portrait falls over and causes a catastrophe. And enter on the scene the Koopy Koopy, which is the little creature that causes all the trouble in this episode. So I thought this would be a
You mean
good.
it wasn't Rafa?
No, I know, right? It's, you know what? They kind of, I think we might have a parallel here. Okay, not really. The Koopy Koopy drives everyone else crazy. Rafa drives Mateo crazy. See?
And Esteban.
And
The
Esteban.
rest of the staff begs.
Yes.
Esteban is already driven crazy. He has not gotten any rest.
Poor thing. Interestingly enough, I confirmed on Twitter with Craig Gerber that the Koopy Koopy was indeed inspired by a Brazilian legend of the, forgive my pronunciation, Curupira. The legend says that it's a creature with bright orange hair and backwards feet, and it kind of looks like a man or a dwarf. And can I just say that from the pictures, like illustrations I saw on Google, that the character design is spot on, just perfect. And the legend says that this creature lives in a forest. Its feet are on backwards to leave footprints that confuse travelers and hunters into going the wrong way. It also apparently has the ability to create illusions and high-pitched whistle that can drive its victims to madness. So the legends vary depending on the region, but generally seem to portray the creature as a type of protector of the forest and animals. But it's also portrayed as a mischievous child that just causes trouble, which I'm guessing is the part of the creature's nature that the Avalor rendition is borrowed from. So anyway, just thought that was a cool fun fact.
Oh, thank you, Becky. Yeah, as you said, the Koopy Koopy, he's running around causing all sorts of chaos in the palace. We see Armando holding the plant and Esteban telling to get rid of it. And then, of course, the Koopy Koopy appears and they look into his eyes and run backwards. And he's running all sorts of chaos. And then we see him enter Mateo's room. And that's when Mateo jumps into action. He's commanding. He knows exactly what to do. He's telling Lena to cover him while he saves the palace from the Koopy Koopy. And for Rafa to stay put. She's got to stay put out of harm's way.
Of course. She listens too, right?
Lena then jumps into action and has his back. The magical dream team's back, baby.
Yes. And then, we see Elena and Mateo working together. Like they just, doing their thing. And like they have done several episodes before. And then, of course, Rafa doesn't listen and she jumps into action. And of course, she gets in the way. And I thought it was so interesting how she picked up that tambourita when the Koopy Koopy knocked Mateo over. She picked up that tambourita and she held it like she was familiar with it. I mean, obviously she's familiar with it, but like her form and everything, like she knew what to do, even if she couldn't quite remember the spell. And of course, she casts a spell. Mateo's freaking out like, no, don't do it. And it breaks the shield that Mateo placed around the palace. So
then Mateo snaps, okay, and he uses his, whole, business voice. And he basically says, Madre, stop. And, so Madre is actually like, how he's been calling her mommy. It's kind of like directly translated, it's mommy. Mama is mama. Madre is like mother, please. So, depending on the context of which you use it, you know what I mean? Like, it can be like, oh, mother, or it could be like mother, So, in this case, he uses his, Madre, stop, like, mother, please, like, stop, stop, you're out of control. Like, I had to slow clap it out for him, like, wow. I sat up straight when he took charge, like, I'm just saying, hello, I was like, oh, that's a new side to him, I like it,
Indeed.
Sorry. Joking aside, his mother listens to him and tosses him his tambourita. And thankfully, just in the nick of time, he stops the Koopy Koopy and ends this nightmarish, adventure.
Yeah, right.
At the end of it all, he kind of, is everyone okay? Everyone's making sure everyone's okay. And he turns to his mother. He asks if she is. He goes like, Mom, like, are you okay? And she, I just have to say, it's like, he's so calm with her and he doesn't hold it over her head, scold her. Like, he'd be like given every right to, you know what I mean? If you're upset, I would totally be like, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. But he doesn't, he doesn't scold her. He doesn't hold over her head. He forgives her. And yes, she was, kind of pestering him all day and annoying him. And yes, she technically unleashed the Koopy Koopy and nearly let it escape from the palace. But the important thing here is that despite that, Mateo loves his mother. And he knows that after all that's happened, everything that she does comes from the same place that her love for him comes from, so.
It was so beautiful. And then, directly connected to that, we see that Rafa has an epiphany. Like before the scene even changes back to the workshop, she has this epiphany, like the look on her face. She's so happy and proud and her lip trembles like she's about to cry. And just that look just expressed so much. Like how can you animate something like that? It was incredible. But yeah, it was absolutely beautiful. So then moving into the workshop, she admits that she was wrong. She apologizes. And that was actually amazing to me because, this is a strong woman. She's always right. She knows what she wants. She knows what she's doing, but she admits it. And she explains like he's not her little boy anymore. He's a man, even though, we know that as a mom, their babies are always their babies. And you can fight me on that one. But the point is she's ready to she understands now like what he's capable of, that he doesn't need all of that protection, that he's ready to stand on his feet and fly. And oh, my heart.
Okay, so and then Mateo gives his mom one of the sweetest speeches ever, which to me was even like more heartfelt. Like, well, not more heartfelt. I don't want to say that because it's hard to put like a level of heartfeltness, if that makes sense. Then when he apologizes after night, but he gives this sweet speech, and it just struck so many things in me as a parent. So let me tell you, okay, there is no instruction manual for these guys. Like, you go from 9 months of planning and falling in love with someone you haven't even met. Okay, you meet this child that is like 110% dependent on you. Like, you cannot leave them alone for a second, and that time goes by so fast, and they get bigger faster than we all realize. Mine are still young, but that day is going to come eventually when they don't need me at all, in that sense. So let me tell you, I mean, that day is coming fast, and I don't know how ready I'll be, or if I'll even recognize when they're ready for me to like back off. So my heart completely goes out to Rafa. This was her son, her only baby, whom she watched grow from being this completely dependent child in this dark world. I mean, if you remember, Streaky was in control. She's lost her father. She's lost whoever, else in the world, and she's raising her son in this, reality. And it's this same son who's like, growing to become a wizard who helped pull a kingdom out of that, It's very important that we watch that scene with this in mind. I mean, Mateo knows that everything his mother did for him, everything he was, is a product of that love, no matter how overbearing, and, it could have been at times. And Rafa, in that moment, also recognized that though she laid down that foundation for him, ultimately, he was the one who built himself into the person he is, today. So, sorry, that's like a very sensitive subject for me. And, as a parent, and I'm sure, Becky, you guys can both like agree with me there, they're always our babies,
Yes, exactly.
How the whole episode kind of played out was, like it kind of pokes fun at the fact that, she's being like this overbearing person. I think nowadays, especially nowadays, like I see so many people like, oh, this is because of my parents, and this is because of my parents. And it's like, I think a lot of people don't realize that like I used to be that person. I used to see like my mom used to be so protective. I wasn't allowed to even go out with friends until like with friends, like girlfriends even.
Yeah.
So like I feel like back then I used to be like, oh, she just hates me, and all this other stuff, but now as a parent you kind of realize like, no, you just like care and love for them. And yes, you have to kind of love them enough to know when to kind of back off, but like there's no like nobody to tell you like if what you're doing is right. You just have a ton of opinions, 90% from people who don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh man. And I thought it was really cool, like, because like you said, like they made it look so funny, but there's this reality behind it. And I thought it was a really nice balance between that hilarious over the top protectiveness and like diving into like the real issues here, those deeper issues, and that like heartfelt like belief that I bet every mother watching the show with their like 5-year-old totally completely related to. And
oh yeah,
on so many levels.
Yeah, when that day comes, it's heartbreaking,
Yes.
because it's just like I don't know. I just think
yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you,
I'm
Team
gonna be a mess when it comes.
Yeah. for giving us something to think about too. Lessons for the adults and the kids.
Thanks for reminding us what we have to worry about in 10 years.
Right.
Jesus. No.
Oh, Jenny, that was gorgeous. Rafa compares Mateo to Alcazar, his abuelo. How does it make Mateo feel? After all, we know his dream is to be just like his abuelo. Yeah, and the wisest wizard of the world cries. It's just so gorgeous. And like for Rafa, his mother, to say that he reminds him of her puppy, Mateo then uses his magic to duplicate the portrait for his mother to keep. Oh, a beautiful mother and son hug. And we see even Esteban crying in the background.
Esteban is so relatable.
On so many levels.
Yes. But really, it's so sweet. It may be that Mateo has grown up and he's leaving home, and well, he's not Mama's little boy anymore. He will always be, but he is becoming his own man in a way. Still, um, although Rafa is letting him go, they still have their family traditions and the love they share. I mean, they will be making their gingerbread house every Navidad. They have their music, they're dancing, and now they'll be having Sunday dinner. I mean, a family is never broken. They just children lead their own lives, but at a certain point, Rafa will always be Mateo's mom, and Mateo will always have time for Rafa.
I know exactly. And then I also just really love the part when she wants him to write to her, even though they live in the same city and they're just across town, basically. But that's just still so sweet because, handwritten notes are just so touching and they can really just convey a lot of meaning and
Well,
love and just heartfelt feelings. So I just thought that was
yeah.
really sweet.
I mean, she's going to miss him. The house will be empty, and it will be so weird to her, probably.
And then we hear Rafa going, "Adios, mijo."
Aw.
Jenny Godmother, what does mijo mean?
So mijo means my son, and it's kind of funny that she uses that this time because if you remember earlier, she was calling him mijito, which is like, oh, my little baby, my little son, And in this case, where she's already kind of accepted that he's grown up to be a man, she uses the word mijo, like my son, without the little baby term at the end.
No, I like that subtle contrast. That's actually really cool.
Oh gosh, and then one of my favorite scenes in this whole entire episode is Esteban with the plant going, "No."
Goodness, that
Beat
was
up on the
hilarious. So dramatic. So, with that goodbye, everything is back in order. Mateo is admiring his room, and Elena asks him what he thinks. He finally feels like a true man, and he has a little voice squeak, and it's really hilarious. He's so cute.
It's sort of signifying becoming a man.
Yeah. I mean, he'll still be a dork and, sweet and pretty much a gentle boy deep inside, but he's growing up in terms of, living his own life, chasing down his dreams.
And I just thought the comedic timing there was just perfect with the voice squeak, because like the voice squeak is like something that you kind of attribute to younger men, like as their voices are changing. But anyway, just I'm a man squeak, just perfect. So then we have the end scene, and we see Elena and Mateo standing together, just kind of gazing off into the distance together through the window. And did anyone else see the view from the window back when the Koopy Koopy was causing havoc? Like, that is a nice view. Anyway.
Was that off the harbor?
Yeah, it was over the harbor in the
gorgeous.
city, and yeah, nice view.
Retail value in that.
Seriously. But I thought it was really beautiful, and it was just kind of a really nice setup for like, hey, this is the setup for like the beginning of Mateo's new life as his own person, and looking off into the future. It was just really beautiful, very nice symbolism there.
And of course, breaking the gorgeous scene we just had, we see the very ending scene, which is Esteban dropping the plant on the tower. This had to be done.
Revenge!
Esteban wins!
Oh my gosh,
Yes.
Esteban murdered someone, but like for real this time.
The plant.
The plan. Oh gosh,
It was so good.
What a beautiful episode. Just quickly, what were your favorite parts, girls? Mine was, besides that amazing song, I just love the comedic Esteban versus the plant scenes, the like Esterbanator or the plant Esteban. I could not stop laughing. But of course, my eyes were crying the next Niagara Falls with that heartwarming scene at the end with Rafa seeing Mateo as his own man. Not just as her little wizard anymore, truly tugging on the heartstrings. What an absolutely beautiful ending. Jenny, what about you?
So my favorite scene has to be the song in general. It was a fun, playful, slightly terrifying duet that played with the mother's dream come true and her son's worst nightmare.
It's perfect. It's a great summary.
Just watching Rafa promise all these things that Mateo did not want to hear, it just totally made me laugh. I also really enjoyed seeing Elena's reaction to all the baby Teo stuff, and too cute.
Wasn't it? Okay, Amelia, what about you?
Oh gosh. Okay. There's so many good parts. So, as we said, the song was so amazing. I just loved the interactions between the two and just the tune and just the words and all, like Mateo's little like inserts where he would just like talk back and stuff. I just thought that was hilarious. And then also Esteban the plant. That's such a classic. You can't forget that. But I think one of my favorite parts was I just really loved seeing Mateo just grow up in this episode. And I loved watching Rafa come to the realization that he's just not the same little boy anymore in the end. And it just illustrates all the amazing character development going on in this series. It just proves that people are growing and that they're learning new things. I just think that's so cool.
Yeah. Oh. All right, Georgia, what about you?
So, as you guys mentioned, there were so many good moments. There was the song, there was the cuteness with Baby Mateo, and you also got Esteban versus the plant, which was hilarious. But I'm really struggling to choose between the opening scene where you have Elena and Esteban pranking Mateo it was a simple scene, but it showed a little bit on the daily life in the palace. You've got Elena being completely comfortable and friendly with Mateo, having fun with him, and so you also have Esteban being able to open up a bit and have fun as well, and poor Mateo struggling with the consequences, and then just the ending with Rafa and Mateo. Oh my God, this part just made me cry. You have Rafa being that sweet mother that just has to deal with empty nest syndrome suddenly. She has to let her boy go, but there's still love in there, and that's something that parents and children both go through. It was just such a good message, right?
Yes. Oh. Okay, Vicky, what about you?
Ooh, can I just say the whole episode, right?
Right?
Okay, kidding. Like I always tell my kids, if it's everything, it's not really a favorite, is it? So, okay, seriously, it was really hard to pick one favorite part, but I have to say I really enjoyed seeing the return of Olivia and the subtle hints at her character growth. Like she was able to, use a tambourita. We know that she wasn't allowed to use one back then. I also loved how they used the few moments that she was there to provide that contrast in the perspective of how a child who is still okay with being babied by her mother versus Mateo, who was so not okay with it.
Definitely. Oh, thank you, girls. And what an episode that was. It should be renamed Them Feels Are Moving On Up.
Yes.
And we all were tear-bending at the end. EOA team, you guys are extremely talented. A definite 11 out of 10 star rating from all of the podcast
Woohoo.
princesses here at the Magic Within squad.
Here.
Okay, moving on up into our next segment for the upcoming episode. Take it away, Jenny.
So we got word that the next episode is going to be Not Without My Magic, which we kind of had a title. We knew this title from way back when like Mario Lopez, I think, tweeted the script like title page or something.
And a few keywords.
Yeah, and a couple keywords, exactly. And we were all like, what in the world? When is this happening? So that time is now. Hooray.
Yay.
I'm going to go over the speculations, basically, because we didn't really know, created this segment, what the episode was going to be about. So we kind of got a little summary for it today as well. But some of the speculations we had were that we actually found I think it was a couple days ago or a week ago on the Disney fandom site. They kind of put this like episode summary out where it was kind of like taken from the iTunes summary where it said like Elena, Esteban, and Mateo fall for this trap and are captured, and it's up to Naomi to rescue her friends from her captor's clutches. So going off of that, we weren't exactly sure that was going to be what this coming episode was about. And to be honest, we're still not sure. But one of the speculations we had kind of coming off of that was that maybe Mateo, Elena, and Esteban being captured. We thought that maybe Victor, Carla, and, Mami Delgado take away their scepter and tambourita, which leaves them without their magic. And we even thought like, hey, maybe that's where Mateo learns how to use like some kind of like what were the words that what did we call that type of magic before? Sorry, really quickly.
Wandless magic?
Verbal
Wandless
magic?
Yeah. Where he learns this kind of like wandless or verbal magic where he doesn't really necessarily need his tamburita. Kind of like what we saw in Spellbound when Fiyero kind of changes the guest list. So at first we thought maybe that's what it is. But today, actually, really recently today, Craig Gerber actually tweeted some information that involves a malfunctioning scepter. Cruz and Vestia getting way ahead of themselves with a new scheme. And then I think we kind of learned Mami Delgado's name, right? So we have Ash Delgado, unless that's her fancy wizard name. I'm not exactly sure. But you know what? We're going to find out soon enough.
Yes.
It's only a couple weeks away. Yeah.
Yay, that's so
I'm
exciting.
excited.
How exciting, though. All right, moving on to our next segment. It's Twitter time. Georgia, take it away.
Hello, Avalor. Make sure to check out our social media pages on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram to see our fun line of Avalor memes, pictures, polls, activities, and updates. And speaking of activities, we have a really cool Spot the Difference activity that we will post to, so make sure to check in to have a go at that.
All right, thanks, Georgia. And then thank you, Podcast Princesses, for being so awesome. And thank you to all of our listeners all over the world as well. You guys are amazing. We can't wait for you to join us next time. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram in between episodes for more discussions, fun, games, and resources you won't want to miss. Also, don't forget that we are now on YouTube as well. And so don't forget to subscribe and leave us a comment because we love to hear feedback from our listeners. And so until next time, wings up, amigos. Bye.
Bye!
The magic within you.
How can we go through this episode without being CP?